Internet, YouTubers, friends, apples and oranges or just a lot of rotten fruit. I'm going to comment a little bit on wading through the morass of what is information on this medium, which is a beautiful subversion. In essence, I find this to be an incredible subversion. The introduction of a lot of things that make sense, and of course a lot of things that don't make sense, and attempting to figure out where we fit into the scheme of things. That's what I do. I try to determine where I fit within the scheme of things, of this incredible experience that we all share, that we all abuse on some level. I've abused this experience myself. I've not understood entirely my part, which is why we tend to, I'm talking about decent people, decent, honest people that feel connected to something, but kind of miss it every now and then. So my commentary, which has been in the last few years, in the last couple of years more, I am still donning my dreaded red. I have not flinched or departed the way someone that has been following me on my YouTubes says, well, you know, he's no longer talking about Fukushima. I want to clarify something. Once again, I state that this, in my observation, understanding, opinion, this is the greatest epic fatality that we've experienced in the history of epic events that have occurred. If you're talking about the flood, when everything is annihilated on the planet historically through biblical times and all the references to Noah and the stuff that's happened, that's destroyed all life on this planet except a few creatures that were saved on a boat. Well, I think we're in this epic moment in terms of a catastrophe having occurred that's called Fukushima. I am not deviating from this. Now, I want to clarify something. Apples and oranges, and a lot of rotten fruit. The way I'm perceiving this, and through my understanding of being in this fight, primarily as you perceive me on this medium, because I am making paintings, I have shows, I express my feelings about the world that I live in through my work. I think this is very important for each person to find their own voice, to be able to express themselves if you have something to say. I mean, some people are just not I guess, built that way, but I am. I'm built this way to express something that I feel very strongly wanting to come out from within on some level. And this is, again, a whole subject of inner world and outer world that I'm so enamored with to understand this part. I'm calling this apples and oranges and a lot of rotten fruit. And you'll see why in a minute. But I want to just clarify this idea that just because my titles, the titles in my videos don't say Fukushima, blah, 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 doesn't mean I have deviated or left my understanding about this. But what I have understood is that in order for us to fix something, we need to fix ourselves. You see, the idea that we can go and stand on the barricades, there may be times when this makes a lot of sense, but in essence, in terms of this fight, because it's so universal, it is a universal fight. Every life form on this planet has a stake in this fight. And as a human being, I have my fight. I'm not sure how other creatures fight the onslaught, the destruction that is facing them, but as a human being, this is how I propagate, or this is how I realize the best part of myself in creating opposition to something that is fundamentally dysfunctional and destructive to all of life and to me and humanity. And to focus, and I'll explain this now, the idea of apples and oranges are always presented to us. It's like, how do you determine what is considered to be truth? There are so many truthers out there. Some of them I find very valuable to my own understanding about who I am, and primarily not because of the information that they give me, but because there's something about themselves. They reveal something about themselves through their words to some extent, but their attitude. You know how you gauge the way a person impresses you, that you have a sense about another person that gives you, they may spout stuff to you, but you have a completely opposite sense to what they're telling you. There is this ability that we have. Some have developed this more than others. I'm coming to it quite late in some way. I feel a connection to certain people because they communicate to me an essence that is trustworthy. And trust is not established by just telling me shit about the state of the world. Everybody goes on about the state of the world. Like this guy, A Plain Truth, if you've ever listened to this guy, he really annoys me actually on a level. He exposes what appears to be clearly the misdeeds that are going on, but somehow it's always from this point of view that there is an external world and the inner world doesn't matter. I'm sort of picking on this guy now because for one, he has said that Fukushima is a hoax, and the nuclear, based on Galen Windsor, this nuclear industry criminal shill network that has presented us with a guy called Galen Windsor, and now they all attach themselves to this guy swimming in the fool pools. This is where this guy is coming from, this A Plain Truth guy. Doesn't mean the way he accuses everyone else of being shills and not telling you the truth, like he's got a video out on Mike Adams, who's probably exactly what he says he is. But here again, the value I get from people is not the information they give me, but how they present themselves, reveal themselves as a brother, a sister, as someone in the fight the way I am. Not because they've understood the world out there, but they've understood the world in there. That's how it works. So for us to have any success, those people, that wholesomeness within the majority of the population, but truly quite sleepy, this wholesomeness is based on something that comes from an inner sense of self, something that is within. And we're presented with apples and oranges all the time to choose. Choose this one or that one. But basically what we're getting is a lot of rotten fruit. This is what I feel. This is what I perceive in this experience on YouTube. And I suppose there is a sense of frustration within me because this seems so natural and clear to me on some level that in order for us to transition into something that works, and anyone that is still thinking it's working, hello, get caught up to current events. It's not working. We've had more wars in the last 70, 80 years after the Second World War than all wars in the complete history of the planet. So something isn't working. So get off that kick that you think you're still on the winning team. There is no such thing as a winning team. Again, this is an apple and an orange. It's like you're either winning or losing. It's that Charlie Sheen winning. Remember Charlie Sheen going on about his personal demise, and his excuse was he was getting laid a lot, and he said, I'm winning. Yes, you're indulging and you're winning. Well, anyway, there is no such thing as a winning team as far as I'm concerned, other than if everyone is winning. If one person is losing, there is no winning team. So here is something that I feel I come back to quite often, a lot of the time, to clarify what I say, to create a context for that which I see to be occurring in the world out there. And there is this perception now that things are coming to a head. Actually, things are always coming to a head when it refers to this inner world that I talk about, because every day within me there is a crisis there is a crisis of something ends and something begins. You see, there is a cycle. This is a natural cycle within our psyche, that there's always this feeling of Armageddon and the ending of everything. This is a natural cycle. There's nothing wrong with feeling that way. But we're being misled to understand it in a way that refers primarily to an external world. And as long as that is functioning within us, we're not going to have any results. It's like the new boss is the same as the old boss, because we don't have the ability to discern. The way they say you can pick apples and oranges, but all you're getting is rotten fruit. You see what I'm saying? My metaphor about rotten fruit. That the reality that I feel I'm a part of is fundamentally rotten fruit, the way it's presented on virtually every channel that I see, every single channel. There are so few wholesome, what I would feel myself connected to, people that express a sense of themselves, that have understood something about themselves, as small as it could be. Let's say, for example, that over a period of 40 or 50 years, your lifestyle has been inundated with eating all the wrong foods, or you feel sick all the time, or the ailments mount up, and you throw yourself at the mercy of the white coats, the people that always get it wrong, and you want an answer, and then you finally realize, well, I can actually help myself by eating a healthy diet, to the extent that it's possible with GMOs. That's a whole other thing again. But the idea that we actually conduct our life in a way that sustains us, that we come, this is my experience in this, that I understood that as a functioning biological being, there are some fundamentals that I have to observe in order to be able to think clearly, to feel connected to something. If I'm sick, it doesn't work. Whenever you're sick, it's like the world is ending. So if you're continuously in this state of being sick on some level and pumping oneself full of drugs and all the stuff the white coats give you, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So my epiphany literally was through, I had incredible help from my partner. Maria helped me incredibly to understand this about myself, that I could be a better person by not submitting myself to the rottenness of eating and nourishing myself. I'm actually getting nourishment from the food most of the time. I lapse every now and then. I'm having my glass of wine today, and it's it works. It didn't work for a while, but I've changed my behavior around that. Anyway, we have addictions. We have things that make us. Well, I feel sometimes to discipline myself into the right way of being is difficult. But it's not a matter of just shutting everything up. But what I'm saying is, I've understood something within myself that makes me work, that actually works. People, there are ways of being that is better than another way of being that actually works. So I guess what I'm coming to today, remember, the dreaded red, my symbol for this catastrophe, because the Fukushima incident is a nuclear criminal syndicate's, fundamentally, I think this was all planned in a larger sort of scheme, like this 80-year, 90-year program that they're on, to create such toxicity in the environment. And I represent it with the red and the black, not the yellow and the black, because I love yellow. I've always said there is an image of, this is an iconic painting by I love this painting by Vincent, of a painter on his way to work, and it's primarily a yellow painting, which is for most artists that are actually committed to finding something within themselves that is of significance will realize that yellow, for most artists, is the most difficult color to paint. And I'm coming at yellow. I mean, I used yellow. There's like a version of yellow, and this painting is from 1982 or 1983. We're looking at 35 years ago. But okay, don't get lost, Tom, here. What I'm This, again, is like an alert, is like an alert. When we are confronted with a world out there that is ending, or people being very hostile towards the powers that are running the show, which are real barbarians. I mean, these people are reptiles on a level that is inconceivable to anyone that still has a heart pounding, as I say, heart pounding in their chest, to be able to be so dismissive of the destruction of all life on this planet. That should be a high alert, a high alert. You can name your fight. If you're talking about plastic, the bunch of plastic floating in the Pacific Ocean, the size of Texas, an area that has been so polluted by our behavior. Yes, pick your fight, start working on it. My fight is this fight, fundamentally, because it is the highest level of toxicity ever created in the history of toxicities. So I am not disappearing as someone who is understood. This is a real problem. And my comment about A Plain Truth saying it was a hoax revealed him definitively to me as someone who is either not connected or presenting us with something, an apple that we should chew on, that we should bite, but he's just rotten fruit. I hope I'm wrong, but this is how the whole system, how this mechanism of our forcing us into a path works. This YouTube medium is part of this forcing us into a path. And we need to be able to do this, what I call this inner work. I'm going to finish now on something that is very important as a metaphor. I came across this with another YouTuber that I think is really struggling with this concept of inner world and outer world, and possibly being somewhat overwhelmed by this challenge of being able to mitigate something in our life that appears to be from an external source, but actually comes from an inner world. And here is a metaphor. I think he's going to watch my, I think he watches my YouTubes when I put one up. And I'm not going to say the name right now because I think there is something here that is very important to understand. And that is when we get to a level of insight and value for ourselves and then to the rest of the world, because as we become better within ourselves, we're able to actually transmit this on some level, whichever way we do this, whatever way we are of service, whether it's through an art thing or whatever activity that we're inclined to do, we're going to do it at the highest level, being of service. I'm going to reflect now on, that explains this idea, on a parable. Well, it's not a parable. It's a metaphor in Christian scriptures. And most Christians, no, all Christians know this, but most people may not be aware of this. It was represented in the magnificent painting by Da Vinci called The Last Supper. Did Michelangelo paint The Last Supper? Maybe he did too. I don't remember. But anyway, this idea of the Last Supper. And in this metaphor, the character known as Jesus that most Christians understand, well, understand is an overstatement, because the Jesus character is really, is it a historical character? Is it a human being? It doesn't concern me. What concerns me, what interests me, is something that is revealed. And for me to be able to receive this revelation, I need to have done a certain amount of inner work. And the inner work that I'm talking about here is in the Last Supper. There's a reference where this person, this character, refers to his body, the physical body, the flesh and the bones and the blood, as a food, eat, like the bread becomes the body and the wine becomes the blood. This is reenacted by the Catholics in a devious way. These people are so, in the sense of, I can't imagine a more barbarian view to take, the way I experienced Christianity when I was a 5-year-old, when I think back on when I was this old and seeing some human being nailed to a stick, it created incredible anxiety within me. Anyway, this Roman Catholic bunch that I came from, present this story as a factual thing, like people are eating, like cannibals eating, chomping away at this person. I mean, this is insidious. This is almost inconceivable to me for someone with a rational mind to interpret this other than a metaphor. This is not real. You're not drinking blood. You're not eating flesh, human flesh. This is a metaphor, people. So if you're still on this kick about the Bible having any kind of significance in terms of telling you something in reality that actually happened, this is primarily, there may be things in the Bible that refer to historical events, but I'm saying that these are metaphors. And Kabbalistically speaking, they're actually equations. They're equations like Yahweh, Yod He Vav He is 10, 5, 6, 5. It's a set of numbers, but I'm not going to get into this because it reveals, like Einstein said, E equals mc squared. It's the same idea. It's just on a higher level even than whatever Einstein compiled. Anyway, this story about the Last Supper. This is why I'm so big on the inner world idea. That we're presented with a very important notion here. And the notion is that once you evolve, as he was imploring his followers, he's imploring his maybe a she, Jesus is a she, imploring her followers to understand that this notion of the material world, as in blood and guts and bones and meat and everything, there is no separation between this physical material world to that, what he considered to be my Father in heaven, the spiritual world. There is no separation. There is no division between the energy, the spirit, matter. It's all the same. This is the metaphor. And the only way we can come even close to understanding something like that is being able to relate to the external world primarily through having done an inner understanding of ourselves, which is why I paint. I say this all the time because I surprise myself. I produce something that comes out of this mystery that is actually that I am a part of. And the more successful I feel I am, the more deeply I've gone within this understanding. And this, the external world, as it is appearing to us now, is highly, highly destructive. It is so dysfunctional because this inner work has not been done. People, Christians, have not understood this metaphor, this important event that happens in Christian scriptures called the Last Supper. And I'm sure it happened, I haven't researched it, I'm sure it happens in other cultures and religions as well, that you eat the guy that you love. Well, what you're eating is you're combining, you're becoming one with this mystery without apples and oranges, and you no longer deal with the rotten fruit. Make sense? So those of you out there who are still caught up in the information, I mean, it's entertaining. You listen to people across the board and it's like background noise all the time telling you all the stuff that's going on. Yeah, I can't disagree. Fukushima has happened. It is rampaging through our China shop. It's the monster rampaging through our China shop, along with all the other monsters rampaging through the China shop. And you have a bunch of people called yellow vest guys who are so fed up and upset because they have understood, maybe not, in their brains, but something is really wrong here. We're part of a system that's really wrong, and they relate it to fuel taxes, and they're related to Federal Reserve banking and the banksters and all the kind of stuff that's going on. Yeah, of course, that's it. But there is no resolution to this unless we come at it with power, with understanding. You know how I feel meeting people that have insight into something they've done. Let's say I come across another painter who has accomplished something within themselves and present me with a vision that they have that makes me feel like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Or what an incredible insight. I hadn't thought of this. I wish I had done it. This sort of feeling in me, as much as, you know, the old me says, oh, I'm competitive, I'm jealous, I'm this and that. The new me says, wow, I'm a better person because somebody has understood this. And it adds to something within me that makes me better. That's how it works. Anyway, we're not apples and oranges. We are one in essence. And in fact, that fruit is rotten. As long as you're caught up in that dichotomy, the inner and the outer world, it is a one, it is connected like that metaphor, that Jesus Last Supper metaphor. It's a shout out to people that are watching me and trying to figure out how to navigate through this challenge. And a friend again came yesterday, a couple of days ago, and said, "Oh, the world is going to change drastically. It's coming to an end, and this and that." Well, the only thing I have to say on that, I think we are in perilous times, but not from the point of view that most people are thinking. That's all I can say. I think there is a destructive element that is taking a hold of us. And the only way it can be stopped is not by raising the banners and hitting the streets. I love the Yellow Vest guys. I have to tell you, I love the Yellow Vest guys. But without that, 1789, by the time it was over, the old boss and the new boss were basically the same again. So without that inner revolution, we don't have a chance. We don't have a chance. And what I mean by inner revolution is just simply, okay, I'll end it here. I'll say it again. The inner revolution progresses as we fundamentally understand we can do the right thing or the wrong thing. And it's something that is also a mystery because we were given this ability to understand somewhere within ourselves when we do the wrong thing, we know we've done the wrong thing. We don't need a tablet of 10 commandments. We don't need the tablets from the external world. We have the tablets within inside us to figure it out, to know we're doing the right thing when we do it. And when we don't do it, we fix it. That's as simple as it is. This is the inner revolution in total 100% success. When we literally begin to do the right thing every day. I struggle with it myself. I have my moments where I lapse, but this is something I've so understood how to proceed as a human being towards some resolution, towards some way of integrating myself into this mystery in the highest possible sense. I don't have to sit on a rock like the Swamis. Well, if you want to, sit on a rock like a Swami. I will make my paintings. I will relate to the people that I know in the best way I can with the honesty that I'm capable of. Anyway, that's my thought today. Apples and oranges, but a lot of rotten fruit out there. So as long as you're focused on those two things, it's not going to work. Think about it.